Princess September. Princess September, like each one of her numerous sisters, receives the gift of a parrot in a golden cage on her father's birthday. The parrot dies, and by chance a singing bird comes in its place. The princess shows off her pet to the sisters, who advise her to put it in a cage. The king and queen of Siam had many daughters, and the queen said that it confused her to have to remember so many names. One day, the king decided to call them January, February, March, though of course in Siamese, till he came to the youngest, whom he called September. Once the king and queen of Siam had many daughters. The queen could not remember the names of all the daughters, so the king decided to name them as January, February, March, and so on, and the youngest daughter was named as September. The king of Siam had a peculiar habit. Instead of receiving gifts on his birthday, he gave them. One year, on his birthday, not having anything else handy, he gave each of his daughters a green parrot in a golden cage. The princesses were very proud of their parrots, and they spent an hour every day in teaching them to talk. Presently, all the parrots could say, "God, save the king," and some of them could say, "Pretty Polly," in no less than 7 Oriental languages. Instead of receiving gifts, the king of Siam had a habit of giving gifts to his daughters on his birthday. One year, he did not have any gift to give, so he planned to give a parrot in a golden cage to every daughter. All the princesses were very happy with their parrots and spent an hour by teaching them how to talk. Now, few of the parrots could say, "God save the king," and some said, "Pretty Polly," in nearly 7 languages. But one day, when Princess September went to say good morning to her parrot, she found it lying dead at the bottom of its golden cage. She burst into a flood of tears, and nothing that her maids of honor could say comforted her. She cried so much that the maids of honor, not knowing what to do, told the queen, and the queen said it was stuff and nonsense, and the child had better go to bed without any supper. The maids of honor wanted to go to a party, so they put Princess September to bed as quickly as they could and left her by herself. One day, Princess September went to say good morning to her parrot. She was shocked to see her parrot lying dead at the bottom of its golden cage. She started to cry. The maids of honor tried to comfort her, but she didn't stop her cry. So they informed the queen. Here, maids of honor means the women who are attending the princess. The queen came and saw Princess September crying and said that it was stuff and nonsense, and asked the maids to put Princess September to bed. As the maids were in a hurry to go to a party, they put Princess September to bed. And while she lay in her bed crying still, even though she felt rather hungry, she saw a little bird hop into her room. She wiped her tears and sat up. Then the little bird began to sing, and he sang a beautiful song all about the lake in the king's garden, and the willow trees that looked at themselves in the still water, and the goldfish that glided in and out of the branches that were reflected in it. When he had finished, the princess was not crying any more, and she quite forgot that she had had no supper. "That was a very nice song," she said. Though hungry, Princess September lay in her bed crying. Suddenly, she saw a little bird that hopped into her room. She wiped her tears and sat up. The little bird started to sing a beautiful song. The bird sang about the lake in the king's garden, the willow trees that looked at themselves in the still water, and the goldfish that glided in and out of the branches that were reflected in it. The princess felt very happy to listen to the song and said that it was a very nice song. The little bird gave her a bow. "Would you care to have me in the place of your parrot?" said the little bird. "It's true that I am not so pretty to look at, but on the other hand I have a much better voice." Princess September clapped her hands with delight, and then the little bird hopped on to the end of her bed and sang her to sleep. Now the bird gave a bow and asked the princess if she liked to have him in place of the parrot. The bird also said that though it was not pretty like the parrot, it had a better voice. Princess September clapped her hands, and the little bird hopped into the end of her bed and sang her to sleep. When she awoke next day, the little bird was still there, and as she opened her eyes, he said, "Good morning." The maids of honor brought in her breakfast, and he ate rice out of her hand, and he had his bath in her saucer. He began to sing again so beautifully that the maids of honor were quite surprised, for they had never heard anything like it, and Princess September was very proud and happy. Next morning, when the little girl woke up, the bird was still there. When Princess September opened her eyes, the bird said good morning. The maids of honor bought the breakfast, and the bird ate rice out of September's hand, and he had his bath in her saucer and began to sing. The maids of honor were surprised to hear the song, and Princess September felt very proud and happy to listen to the song. "Now I want to show you to my 8 sisters," said the princess. She stretched out the first finger of her right hand so that it served as a perch, and the little bird flew down and sat on it. Then, followed by her maids of honor, she went through the palace and called on each of the princesses. And for each of them the little bird sang a different song. But the parrots could only say, "God save the king," and Pretty Polly. At last she showed the little bird to the king and the queen. They were surprised and delighted. Now Princess September decided to show the bird to her 8 sisters. She stretched out her first finger of her right hand so that the bird could come and sit on it. With her maids of honor, she went through the palace to meet the other princesses. As the bird saw the princesses, he sang a new song for each of them. But the parrots could only say, "God save the king," and Pretty Polly. Princess September went to the king and the queen to show her bird. They were surprised. They were happy to see the bird. "I knew I was right to send you to bed without any supper," said the queen. "This bird sings much better than the parrots," said the king. "I should have thought you got quite tired of hearing people say, 'God save the king,'" said the queen. "I can't think why those girls wanted to teach their parrots to say it too." "The sentiment is admirable," said the king, "and I never mind how often I hear it, but I do get tired of hearing those parrots say 'Pretty Polly.'" The queen said that it was right to send September to bed without supper. The king said that the bird sang better than the other parrots. The queen said to the king that he must have got tired listening to the parrots often saying, "God save the king." The king replied that he felt okay with the parrots saying, "God save the king," but he felt very tired of the parrots saying, "Pretty Polly." "They say it in 7 different languages," said the princesses. "I dare say they do," said the king, "but it reminds me too much of my counselors. They say the same thing in 7 different ways, and it never means anything in any way they say it." The princesses were vexed at this, and the parrots looked very glum indeed. But Princess September ran through all the rooms of the palace, singing like a lark, while the little bird flew round and round her, singing like a nightingale. As soon as the king and the queen spoke about the parrots, the other princesses said that they are able to tell it in different languages. The king replied that he agrees the statement, but he often recalls how his counselors say the same thing in different ways, but still he could not find any difference in what they said. All the other princesses felt very sad when they heard the king's reply. Even the parrots looked sad. But Princess September happily moved through all the rooms of the palace, singing like a lark, with the little bird which flew round and round around her, and singing like the nightingale. Things went on like this for several days, and then the 8 princesses put their heads together. They went to September and sat down in a circle round her. "My poor September," they said, "we are sorry for the death of your beautiful parrot. It must be dreadful for you not to have a pet bird as we have. So we have all put our pocket money together, and we are going to buy you a lovely green and yellow parrot." "Thank you for nothing," said September. "I have a pet bird which sings the most charming songs to me, and I don't know what on earth I should do with a green and yellow parrot." As this matter went on for several days, the 8 princesses went to Princess September and said that they were very sorry for the death of the beautiful parrot. So they all said that they will buy a lovely green and yellow parrot for Princess September. But Princess September refused what they said and explained that she is more happy with her beautiful bird. "Well, my dear," they said, "it's absurd to talk of your bird when the little fellow flies in and out just as he likes." They looked around the room and raised their eyebrows. "Do you mind our asking where your bird is now?" they said. "He has gone to pay a visit to his father-in-law," said Princess September. "And what makes you think he'll come back?" asked the princesses. "He always does come back," said September. The other princesses said to Princess September that it is not good to talk of a bird as it moves in and out as it liked. They asked Princess September where her bird has gone at the moment. Princess September replied that the bird has gone to visit his father-in-law. The other princesses doubtfully asked how she believed that the bird would come back. Princess September replied that he always comes back and will do the same. "Well, my dear," said the 8 princesses, "if you'll take our advice, you won't run any risks like that. If he comes back, and mind you, if he does, you will be lucky. Pop him into the cage and keep him there. That's the only way you can be sure of him." "But I like to have him fly about the room," said the young Princess September. "Safety first," said her sisters ominously. They got up and walked out of the room, shaking their heads, and they left September very uneasy. Now the other princesses gave an idea to Princess September. They advised her to keep the bird in a cage so that she need not worry whether he will return or not. But Princess September disagreed and said that she liked to see the bird fly freely and sing. The other princesses threatened her to be very careful about the bird and walked out of the room. Princess September loves the bird far too much to take chances and acts upon her sister's advice. The bird cannot overcome the loss of freedom. Princess September decides to put the bird's happiness above her own. It seemed to Princess September that her little bird had been away a long time. Something might have happened to him. What with hawks and with snares, you never knew what trouble he might get into. Besides, he might forget her, or he might take a fancy to somebody else. That would be dreadful. She wished he were safely back again. Princess September's bird did not return for a long time. She felt worried about the little bird. She thought about the hawks and the snares that could come and trouble the little bird. She also thought that the bird might forget her and join somebody else. She wished for the safety return of the bird. Suddenly, September heard a tweet tweet just behind her ear, and she saw the little bird sitting on her shoulder. He had come in so quietly and alighted so softly that she had not heard him. "I wondered what on earth had become of you," said the princess. "I thought you would wonder that," said the little bird. "The fact is, I very nearly didn't come back tonight at all. My father-in-law was giving a party and they all wanted me to stay, but I thought you would be anxious." September heard a tweet-tweet sound just behind her ears and was happy to see the little bird on her shoulder. Princess expressed a sorrowful feeling for not seeing the bird for a long time. The bird too thought of the same and said that his father-in-law had a party and wanted him to stay with them, but thinking of Princess September, the bird flew back to her. Under the circumstances, this was very unfortunate remark for the little bird to make. September felt her heart go thump against her chest, and she made up her mind to take no more risks. She put up her hand and took hold of the bird. The bird suspected nothing, and he was so surprised when she carried him over to the cage, popped him in, and shut the door on him that for a moment he could think of nothing to say. But in a moment or two he hopped up to the ivory perch and said, "What is the joke?" Princess September did not want to take any more risk with the bird. She caught hold of him and carried him to put him into the cage. The bird did not expect this, but was surprised when she put him into the cage. The bird couldn't think of anything, but said, "What is the joke?" to Princess September. "There's no joke," said September, "but some of Mama's cats are prowling about tonight and I think you are much safer in there." "Well, just for this once I don't mind," said the little bird, "so long as you let me out in the morning." He ate a very good supper and then began to sing, but in the middle of the song he stopped. "I don't know what is the matter with me," he said, "but I don't feel like singing tonight." "Very well," said September, "go to sleep instead." Princess September said to the bird that it was not a joke. She also said that the cat is moving about here and there and it is unsafe for the bird to come out of the cage. But the bird said it did not mind it. Now the bird ate his good supper and began to sing, but suddenly in the middle it stopped singing. The bird said that it did not feel to sing that night. Princess September accepted it and asked the bird to go to sleep. So he put his head under his wing and in a minute was fast asleep. September went to sleep too, but when the dawn broke, she was awakened by the little bird calling her at the top of his voice. Wake up, he said. Open the door of this cage and let me out. I want to have a good fly while the dew is still on the ground. You are much better off where you are, said September. Listening to Princess September, the bird fell asleep and Princess September also went to sleep. Dawn broke and the little bird called Princess September at the top of his voice to let him out of the cage. But September refused the wish of the bird and asked him to stay where he is and said that the place where he is staying is the better place compared to flying. Let me out, said the little bird, and he tried to slip through the bars of the cage, but of course couldn't, and he beat against the door, but of course he couldn't open it. Then the 8 princesses came in and looked at him. They told September she was very wise to take their advice. They said he would soon get used to the cage and in a few days would quite forget he had ever been free. The little bird said nothing at all while they were there. But as soon as they were gone, he began to cry again, let me out, let me out. The little bird requested Princess September to let him out, but Princess September did not allow him to go out. So the bird tried to come out of the bars, but in vain. The other princesses came to Princess September and praised her as she kept the bird safe inside the cage. They also said that in a few days the bird would become used to it and would forget about his free fly. The bird did not say anything until all the 8 princesses went aside. But soon, as he confirmed that they had gone, he started to cry as, let me out, let me out. Don't be such an old silly, said September. I have put you in the cage because I am so fond of you. I know what's good for you much better than you do yourself. Sing me a little song and I'll give you a piece of sugar. But the little bird stood in the corner of his cage looking out at the blue sky and never sang a note. What's the good of sulking, said September. Why don't you sing and forget your troubles? Now Princess September said to the bird not to be silly. She also said that she had placed him in the cage for his safety and promised to give him a piece of sugar if he sang a song for her. But the little bird saw the blue sky and never sang. Princess September questioned the bird as why don't you sing and forget your troubles? But the little bird remained still. How can I sing? Answered the bird. I want to see the trees and the lake and the green rice growing in the fields. I'll take you out every day, she said. It's not the same thing, said the little bird. The rice fields and the lake and the willow trees look quite different when you see them through the bars of a cage. The bird wouldn't sing a song and he wouldn't eat a thing. The princess was a little anxious at this and asked her sisters what they thought about it. The little bird said that how could he sing? He said that the rice fields and the lake and the willow trees looked different when seen from the cage. From that time the bird didn't eat nor sing a song. Now Princess September did not know what to do, so she asked suggestions from her sisters. You must be firm, they said. But if he won't eat, he'll die, she answered. That would be very ungrateful of him, they said. He must know that you're only thinking of his own good. If he is obstinate and dies, it'll serve him right and you'll be well rid of him. September didn't see how that was going to do her very much good, but they were 8 to 1 and all older than she, so she said nothing. Perhaps he'll have got used to his cage by tomorrow, she said. The sisters advised her to be firm in her decision. Princess September said that he would die if he doesn't eat anything. The 8 sisters said that the bird should realize your good doing. If he doesn't realize it, then nothing can be done. He will die and you'll be rid of him. Princess September couldn't take any decision as all the sisters were elder to her. She hoped that the bird would get used to the cage by the next day. And next day, when she awoke, she cried out, "Good morning," in a cheerful voice. She got no answer. She jumped out of bed and ran to the cage. She gave a startled cry, for there the little bird lay. At the bottom, on his side, with his eyes closed, and he looked as if he were dead. She opened the door and putting her hand in, lifted him out. She gave a sob of relief, for she felt that his little heart was beating still. The next morning, Princess September wished good morning to the little bird in a cheerful voice, but she got no answer. She got off her bed and ran to the cage. To her shock, the little bird lay with his eyes closed like dead. Princess September slowly opened the cage and lifted the bird out of the cage. She sobbed and felt the beating of the little bird's heart. Wake up, little bird," she said. She began to cry, and her tears fell on the little bird. He opened his eyes and saw that the bars of the cage were no longer around him. "I cannot sing unless I am free, and if I cannot sing, I'll die," he said. The princess gave a great sob. "Then take your freedom," she said. "I shut you in a golden cage because I loved you and wanted to have you all to myself, but I never knew it would kill you. I love you enough to let you be happy in your own way." Princess September cried and asked the bird to wake up. Now, to the bird's surprise, the bars of the cage was no longer around him. He said to Princess September that he cannot sing until he is free to fly, and also continued that if he doesn't sing, he will die. Now, Princess September felt the feeling of the bird and said that because I loved you, I wanted you to be safe, but I never knew that it will take your life away. After saying these words, she set the bird free as she loved the bird so much. She threw open the window and gently placed the little bird on the sill. He shook himself a little. "Come and go as you will, little bird," she said. "I will never put you in a cage any more." "I will come because I love you, little princess," said the bird, "and I will sing you the loveliest songs I know. I shall go far away, but I shall always come back and I shall never forget you." He gave himself another shake. "Good gracious me! How stiff I am!" he exclaimed. Now, Princess September gently placed the bird on the sill. Here, sill means a shelf or slab of stone, wood or metal at the foot of a window opening. The bird shook him little. Princess September asked the bird to visit her again and promised him that she will not put him back into the cage. The bird promised to return back and sing the loveliest song as he loved Princess September. The bird also said that he will go to far off places but will be back to meet Princess September and will never forget her. Finally, he gave himself a shake and said, "Good gracious me, how stiff I am!" Then he started his flight. Then he opened his wings and flew right away into the blue. But the little princess burst into tears, for it is very difficult to put the happiness of someone you love before you own, and with her little bird far out of sight, she felt all of a sudden very lonely. When her sisters knew what had happened, they mocked her and said that the little bird would never return. But he did at last, and he sat on September's shoulder and ate out of her hand and sang her the beautiful songs he had learned while he was flying up and down the fair places of the world. September kept her window open day and night so that the little bird might come into her room whenever he felt inclined, and this was very good for her, so she grew extremely beautiful. The bird opened his wings and flew away to the beautiful sky. But Princess September felt very lonely as she could not stay alone without the bird. Now the 8 sisters said that the bird would not return. But the sweet little bird returned as usual and sat on Princess September's shoulder and ate out of her hand and sang her beautiful songs. From that day, Princess September kept her window open day and night so that the bird would come whenever he felt. Princess September grew extremely beautiful. And when she was old enough, she married the king of Cambodia and was carried on a white elephant all the way to the city in which the king lived. But her sisters never slept with their windows open, so they grew extremely ugly as well as disagreeable, and when the time came to marry them off, they were given away to the king's counselors with a pound of tea and a Siamese cat. Now, Princess September was old enough to get married. She got married to the king of Cambodia and was carried on a white elephant all the way to the palace where the king lived. But Her sisters did not keep the windows open, so they became very ugly in appearance and were married to the king's councillors with a pound of tea and a Siamese cat. Here ends the story with a moral. Be good and kind to others and live a peaceful life. Again, I repeat, be good and kind to others and live a peaceful life.